Good evening and welcome to Live from Monteagle Ridge, a virtual event that takes the place of our President's Dinner, which we usually hold each fall. Unfortunately, this year we're unable to do it. We will get started, as we usually do with everything here at Niagara University, with a blessing. My pleasure to introduce the Reverend Aidan Rooney, CM, the Vice President for Mission Integration, for tonight's blessing. Father?
For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. But with justice and righteousness from this time forth and forevermore, says Isaiah the prophet. No justice, no peace, is the continuing cry of God's people. This Christmas, O God, bless us with the fervor to heal wounds, to lift the oppressive yoke, to build the beloved community. This year has tried us, O God, with sickness and with selfishness, with stridency and suffering, with division and needless death. But it has also filled us, O God, with constancy and compassion, with willingness and warmth of spirit. In our mourning, yet there is morning light. Make us grateful, O God, as we remember you once set aside your glory and entered our world and invited us to make your cause our own, to liberate and to heal, to build and to plant anew. St. Vincent taught us, you reign silently from within the world of the poorest, telling us that the poorest are our lords, our masters, our kings, our queens. Thank you, Lord, for this Christmas truth, this Christmas blessing. May we always have the vision of angels to see your coming. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace. Hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that all no more may die. Born to raise us from the earth, born to give us second birth. Hark, the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Amen. Alleluia.
And the mission of Niagara University, of course, is to serve our students. And we have great students across the campus in all the programs. Our NUSCA president is here to offer some remarks for you tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce Lawson Castaldo, who is a senior biology major from Amherst, New York, and he has some great words for us tonight. Lawson?
Thank you, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Lawson Castaldo, and I'm a senior biology major here at NU. Throughout my time at Niagara, I've had a lot of opportunities, especially with regard to my path as a pre-medical student. And for me, Niagara has really been a home where a lot of my favorite memories were made. And it's been a really unique part of my life that's allowed me to develop myself in a lot of different ways. When I came here as a freshman, if someone told me I would be able to gain all the different cultural, research, and interpersonal experiences that I have at this point, or even just that I would be standing here talking to you today as student body president, there's no way I would have believed them. But my experiences over the last 4 years have really transformed me as a student, as a leader, as a future healthcare provider, as someone who thinks about their community and those in need, and even as a peer or a friend. So just to name a few things I've been able to do in my time that I've been here. In my freshman year, I was able to go on a medical mission trip to Costa Rica. Since then, I've volunteered with Circle K International Service Club on campus and met some awesome like-minded students and some individuals in our community. I've had a lot of opportunities for mentoring students, tutoring students, opportunities in leadership, especially with my role in student government this year. And I've also been able to conduct really interesting and novel research all 4 years here. And that's really been one of my favorite experiences. I've also been able to attend a lot of conferences. I've had opportunities for clinical internships, and I've presented posters on my research, you name it. So these opportunities, they wouldn't have been possible without the support from our alumni, and the aid and scholarships I received coming into NU It absolutely took a financial burden off my shoulders, and it really allowed me to focus on making the most of my 4 years here. So I'm grateful I came to Niagara. I'm grateful to have the support from our alumni that allow myself and every student here to have the opportunities that we do. And I'd like to just say thank you, truly, to every Niagara alumni for your continued support and your generosity. Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a happy and safe holiday season.
Thank you, Lawson, for your remarks. Once again, we are live from Monteagle Ridge, a virtual event that takes place at our President's Dinner, which we hold each fall. During that dinner, Father Maher, our president, always gets to offer his remarks, almost a state of the university. It's great to have Father Maher with us tonight. Father, it's been a year like no other. So why don't we jump right into it and start with the pandemic and the university's initial response back in the spring.
Yeah, so we, as I wrote to our alums and our university community, that we really ground ourselves in our Vincentian mission. St. Vincent de Paul, was known for his great service to the people of France for natural disasters, migration conflicts, and his fundamental creed was pray as though everything depends on God and work as though everything depends on you, and that's really what we did. And so we had a remarkable response from Dr. Ireland, our provost, our deans, our faculty, to be able to go in the space of 2.5 weeks to remote, learning, and we made that transition exceptionally well. We provided online support for our students academically, counseling services, career services, student activities. So we went into the virtual world not by choice, but by necessity, and it was navigated very, very well.
That's great. That seamless for the students really made it nice, a good shift, as the whole world had to, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't, and that type of shift to remote learning has some other implications for the university, obviously. Let's tell me a little bit about that and what the university faced at that point.
Well, what we were fortunate to have great leadership in our our independent sector in New York State. So we started preparing right away for what was next, and so we believe very, very strongly in embracing technology and also in face-to-face learning. Mm-hmm. So we created a model for the fall in which we could be face-to-face undergraduate, but also create the opportunity for remote learning, asynchronous learning, cameras in the classroom. So really over a $2 million investment in the campus itself to be able to prepare for what may. That our first focus was really on restoring face-to-face. We were largely successful at being able to do that. Went through until the last week of the semester. Right. But also just the student-centeredness of Niagara that many of our alums know, we really tried to follow that. So refunding room and board fees to students and their families, the American CARES Act, and getting right out the door $1.35 million from the government right out to the students, using some of that money to assist the university. It was a massive undertaking, but we welcomed this year a freshman class of 624 students to the campus, and we're really focused on face-to-face learning, and we've had a really, really successful year to date.
In addition to the CARES Act money, you established the Purple Eagles Emergency Relief Fund with the Advancement Office.
Yeah,
and tell me a little bit about that and the use of that.
Yep. Really through, with Derek Wesley and a couple of our trustees, Jacqueline Rossi, we really worked together, close to $500,000. And just knowing that everyone was in a deep hole, right? And so that money really went right to our freshmen. As soon as the money came in, it went right out to our freshmen to be able for them to come to Niagara to bridge this gap with COVID and overcome hardships. And really not only helped us secure a class, but it retained our current students. And that's really two of the challenges that a lot of institutions face, getting students to come and then retaining students, because the rug gets pulled out from you financially. So credit to our alumni, our advancement team, and some of our trustees and board of advisors who helped us really imagine this and execute on it. So,
incredibly important when you think about the pandemic. Certainly the health issue and the loss of life is too much to bear for many people. But there are financial impacts. So a fund like that really helps. But and you touched on this a little bit. So going back to the spring, you started automatically. You came right out and said, we're going to be open in the fall. We're going to do what we have to do to make sure that the campus is safe. But you had some insight because you worked with the CICU on their task force, and that helped ground the university's task force to build that plan. And talk a little bit about that work there.
It was really, a terrific group of representatives from around the state, both the private sector, independent sector, and the public sector, SUNY, and the governor's task force for the larger focus on New York State. And so it was made up of scientists, epidemiologists to say, what are the best practices that campuses have to have in place in order to have a chance to be open and to be safe and secure. So you see a lot of those things, when you walk around the campus, right? The spacing, the masks, the cleaning, 40% capacity in classrooms, putting cameras in classrooms so if someone's positive, they don't lose their class time, and they can actually learn by being at home, or if they're quarantined as well. So it was really a for the dining halls, the library, the cleaning, the air filtration throughout the campus. It was a great team effort led by Debbie Colley, our Executive Vice President, Tim Ireland, our Provost, Mary Bergognoni, our Senior VP for Operations, a number of faculty, deans, people throughout the campus. And really what the benefit of being on that commission group was, there are people, many of the people there really, they have forgotten more than I know about science and epidemiology and safe practices in public health. But you could just soak up all those practices and then build and customize, a safe campus, customize it to Niagara University, to our students, our 170 acres. And that's really what we tried to do. So, being informed by the best of science and epidemiology and instilling those practices that we've been able to, create in a patterned way at Niagara this semester.
Last year we did this discussion. You and I were right next to each other at a table. This year we're 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
Or as I tell people, one Father Maher apart, because you're about 6 feet tall, right?
Right.
So, but so the semester started with all those protocols in place. That didn't end there, though, right? Tell me a little bit about testing and the things that happen on campus throughout the semester.
Yeah. So we tested, Tom, over 2,000 students. We did contact tracing. We had, essentially for much of the term, a positive rate of about 7 to 10 students per week. We think with the Halloween weekend, daylight savings time, just in the region. The wave that really has overtaken Western New York now impacted us, really.
Sure.
I would say that the safest place to be was probably the classroom.
Right.
And so we went to the remote platform on November 12th, which was in our plan, and we're prepared for that if in case that happened. And now the students are finishing exams. They're getting ready to come back. We're going to start later in January, right before February 1st. So, and we've had some really good satisfaction data from our freshmen and sophomores and students that as challenging as it was for them and will continue to be, they were just really grateful and glad to be part of Niagara University and have the experience. And the most important thing is they're progressing. Right? As hard as it is not to have the social activities and the things that we all associate with university life that our alums remember, that I remember, it's a temporary pause from that for the good of public health and the common good, and we will get back to that.
Yeah, and you touched on this briefly, but and I know it's early, and you've shifted the academic calendar. But what does the spring look like to you and to the campus? I think the plan is probably being tweaked, but tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the most interesting part of, we continue to move forward with our plan and execute on that. But we've had some really surprising good data from our freshmen and sophomores that we've surveyed. How was your semester? And incredibly positive data about, they knew it was a challenge, but they appreciated the efforts the university made at being able to have face-to-face, to be together. We all crave that as human beings, right? And remote, as effective as it can be, remote learning doesn't capture that.
Sure.
That, you know, the students need to learn, they need to interact with each other, with their professors. So, you know, we're really excited about that, and we know that, you know, it's going to take time, but vaccinations will come. Better treatment for people is already evolving and developing who have the virus. And so, you know, we're going to continue to move forward, provide a really safe campus environment, begin to help students reacclimate and readjust as we go forward. And they're excited and we're excited about taking a break right now and then getting ready to come back in late January.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that, you know, getting back to campus after some of this new lockdown, you know, will be good for them.
Kind of one of the things I think we've learned too, Tom, you know, was that, you know, we know this. We know that society, you know, the isolation and the challenges around mental health, and we did a lot of telehealth and telemental health. And Chris Sheffield, who leads the area, and our counselors and counseling center were tremendous.
Right.
But we've instituted sort of what we might call 4 personal care days for the semester. So there's just days where we take a break.
Right.
And, you know, it's not a Friday or a Monday.
Sure.
So
Right.
but a Wednesday or a Thursday or something like that, where students and faculty, because you have to remember this is a tremendous strain on the faculty as well.
Sure.
And you can kind of have the day to exhale, recalibrate, breathe, and rebalance and reset.
So they'll start this semester, they'll go straight through with some of those self-care days in there. That's great. I know when you are traveling, one of the questions you always get is about enrollment. So let's kind of shift and talk about enrollment. You mentioned the Purple Eagles Emergency Relief Fund, how that may have helped with the fall enrollment. But tell me about the fall numbers, primarily on the freshman side to start out with.
Well, I credit Bob Murphy, our Executive VP for Enrollment and Dean of Admissions, Mike Friedman, the number 2 there, the entire team. You know, they did such a great job. I mean, if you could only imagine this, right? So everything went virtual, right? And so, you know, you're constantly engaging students. So the incredible creativity of our frontline people in the enrollment era, cooking shows.
Right.
You know, something close to my heart, bingo. You know, it's great to see bingo making a comeback with college students. There's hope, right?
It's a Catholic institution,
yes,
so that counts, right?
And so, you know, it was a tremendous accomplishment because I think we were in a group of 5% of institutions in the Northeast that made their enrollment number on freshmen. So 624 freshmen, 114 transfers. You know, it was tremendous work but really, you know, the support of our alumni, the Purple Eagles Emergency Relief Fund made a tremendous difference in being able to, you know, say to families, you know, we've got this money for you that's going to last for your 4 years, and you'll have this grant, you know, to be able to manage your time at Niagara University. So a great success story by the whole campus, led by the enrollment team.
And those challenges probably exist in the recruitment of graduate programs as well. Let's talk a little bit about the graduate programs and how the university did in that realm.
Yeah, I mean, coming through, you know, the College of Business and Arts and Sciences were within 1 to 2 points of their targets. Some of the programs a little further behind, but all within distance, striking distance of their targets. So all in all, it was a great effort throughout the campus community, you know, to be able to, you know, reach out to students. A lot of the graduate, you know, is online, has been online this semester, and that works for folks, you know, who are a little more mature and developed, you know, to be able to do that. So, you know, we think we've learned a lot about what we can do in graduate as we go forward.
And when you talk about, you know, a lot of the news stories in higher education leading into the year was the giant tank that was going to happen in higher education. So to have those numbers on the freshman side and even the graduate within striking distance is great. Last year when we talked, you were just opening the new site in Vaughan, Ontario, and tell me about the progress up there and how that is.
Yeah, so we had received permission from the Ministry of Education to open 3 new additional graduate programs. So it would be 5 post-baccalaureate programs, 2 in education, 1 in digital informatics, one is an MBA, Master's in Business Administration, and an MS in Finance. Those, the nice thing is they're right within range of their targets. Toronto is experiencing and Vaughan is experiencing some of the same challenges right now around COVID. But we've been able to really get within range. Vince Ronaldo, who leads our campus community there, has done a great job with our faculty and our deans. What's most exciting is the growth in the pipeline. So hundreds of people now in the pipeline as we go forward. It's a wonderful opportunity. Vaughan is one of the most smaller, impressive cities in North America, 400,000 people, but incredible growth and development, and obviously being connected to Toronto and the way Toronto is exploding. It bodes well for our university and the 3,400 alums that we have in the Ontario area, almost 5,500 total of Canadian alums.
Yeah, that's great, and to be right on the GTA,
Yeah.
That's just huge amounts of people. It's
Yeah,
it's such a major
650 students.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity for us to continue to expand our footprint as we go forward.
That's great. Some great success enrollment. Way early, but recruitment cycle for next year, and how does that look at this point, and where we are?
So it's an incredible challenge for everyone. But the team again has just under Bob Murphy's leadership and Mike Friedman have just fully embraced this effort, and credit again to the enrollment staff and the frontline team. So the difficulty is not being able to get into high schools, which is a big part of connecting with students physically.
Sure.
So a lot of virtual activity. The lack of SAT and ACT testing puts a strain on everyone.
Sure.
And it puts a strain on the students, from the middle class particularly, and the economically working poor families.
Right.
That's an area that's incredible challenge. Where we get a lot of our applications, though the Common App is only down 3% for us, where it's down 17% nationally. So there's a lot of activity going with, engaging students virtually. And the biggest thing, the message, Tom, has been, just keep at it.
Right.
Chop wood, keep going.
Right.
Don't get discouraged, because you might be used to having, an event where you had 35 or 40 students and you have 12.
Right.
But those 12 are really, really important. So focus on those students as we go forward. So essentially what we've done is really just work as hard as we can creatively around that. And we think that, everybody has kind of lost a couple of months due to all this, lack of opportunity to kind of get into schools and engage with counselors and students in the volume that you're normally used to. But what's going to be really critical for us is that we're ready to pounce after the first of the year, and we're doing SAT prep. Our team, Katie Kosis, who leads our financial services area, who does an outstanding job for the university, she and her team are doing seminars online, virtual, about the financial aid form, because it's incredibly challenging, right, for families who may be already strained by the lack of economic resources and feeling as though things are kind of, closing in or very, very tight. So we're doing everything we can to be ready, and we're working really hard to raise scholarship dollars, current use scholarship dollars, so that we can actually impact students who are most vulnerable financially, who are in the middle class, and students who are also most academically attuned and gifted, and really build that diversity of a class as we go forward.
You mentioned current use, and we're going to talk a little bit about that more towards the end of this, but we are, of course, fundraising as an institution, and current use is very important to the university. We're trying to raise $50,000 by the end of the month. We're already at $38,000, and there's a 3-to-1 match for every dollar. So we'll give you a little bit more information at the end, but current use is incredibly important. You touched briefly on academics, and you touched on Vaughan, Ontario. So not that you glossed over those, but tell me again about the new programs in Vaughan, as we shift kind of to looking at academics now, and,
Yeah.
and what opportunity you think is there just because of the market size.
Well, when we talk about Vaughan, Tom, in Canada, it's really such great opportunity because of the 3,400 alums that we have who are well placed throughout the province of Ontario. The history of Niagara, almost, St. Vincent used to talk about divine providence, but our first president, Father Lynch, went up to be the first bishop of Toronto.
Right.
And so it's almost in our DNA that we're a binational university.
Sure.
What these programs really do, in the College of Business Administration, the MBA, the MS in Finance, there's a great need for institutions that have flexibility, that can design opportunities for people to work, to receive their degree, to get credentials. And really what you're doing then is you're expanding your footprint not only by educating students, but also by expanding the workforce, and really assisting the workforce of the Greater Toronto area. The MS in Information and Digital Forensics is a tremendous program. It's
Crazy field how big that is growing, right?
Yeah, it's got a tremendous appeal here in the States, globally, and in Canada as well. So it's one of our hottest growing programs as we go forward. And the Bachelor's of Professional Studies, which has been a program that Father Dan O'Leary and Dr. John Strangers, who's still on the faculty of the alumni and teaching very well in history, they went up together to Canada and a handshake really formed this program that's been tremendous. How many thousands of teachers we've educated in Canada who are incredibly well placed now and look to Niagara in that way. So it has great expanse and opportunity for us as we go forward.
Well, that's incredible. And then let's stick with academics. Earlier this year, U.S. News and World Report came out with their rankings. It seems like NU moves up on this ranking every single year. And talk a little bit about that upward mobility for the university.
Yeah, so it's been a great, sort of movement of steady progress, right? And so we don't do it just for the sake of U.S. News.
Sure.
We do it because the rankings are tied to key indicators, right? And our strategic plan. And so 3 of the areas that really we've been able to make incredible gains on are our graduation rates, moving them up about 10 points to be in the top 20 to 25 percentile of universities and colleges in the country. Our retention and moving that steadily to freshman retention to 84%. Our alumni giving, which is now up to 12%, and just doing it steadily and building it. So it's been a great opportunity to move from being 70 in 2013 to now number 23 in the North region. And we're not resting on our laurels. We know we have work to do to continue to go forward. But what's great about it, Tom, is it's an indicator that families look at. So we don't do it for the sake of simply the indicator, but it's really rooted in the work that's been done around the strategic plan, the outcomes that are really critical for families to be able to say, yeah, Niagara's worth the return on investment that I'm making.
Right. So let me get this right. We moved up 47 spots since 2013. What was your first year as president?
2013.
How about that? Imagine that. So, Father, you mentioned rankings, of course, which people do look at. We know that. But you did well in the rankings. So a lot of people say, that's fine, rankings are good. What's the faculty like? Tell me about, who am I going to learn from when I come to the university? And tell me, you can't go through everybody, but touch on faculty a little bit.
Well, we've got gifted, really blessed with a group of teacher scholars. And I say that because they really regard themselves as teachers. And to come to an institution where you have faculty who, could be at Research One institutions, by their publications, by their research, by their stature, and they choose to be at Niagara because they can do that, but they can also teach, and they don't have graduate assistants that they're farming things out to teach. Right. One example is Dr. Mary McCord, our professor of chemistry. She just received the Shellenkoff Medal in recognition for her achievement in chemical technology in Western New York and in the from the American Chemical Society. Mary has sent countless students to graduate schools. She's a tremendous worker. She's humble, and she's made an incredible difference. 14 patents that have been developed, and she's working now on treatment of coronavirus, and the use of her methodology and technology. She's just a tremendous person and a great scholar and a wonderful teacher, and someone who's engaged every day with students.
Right.
You see her with her students in the labs, and it's really edifying, that someone of that ability and capability chooses to function in that way, and really makes the investment in students. But no buts about it. That's really what Niagara does at its best.
Sure.
Our
Right.
faculty in the arts and sciences, and hospitality and tourism, and business and education, they make those commitments, each and every day, and it's what makes Niagara so special.
Yeah, it's great. Mary's been here a little more than 20 years, 14 patents, as
Yeah.
you said. That's a little old Niagara. That's amazing. You mentioned outcomes earlier. Just real quickly, let's touch. Where does Niagara sit now in terms of outcomes? Is my son or daughter going to get a job, and what are they going to do? And just touch on that.
Yeah. So that's the number one question, Tom,
Right.
that we all receive at open houses,
Right.
and it will be, will my son or daughter have a good job or a
Right.
career, which is really important. 97% of our recent graduates are placed working in graduate school 6 months after graduation. We have Stephanie Morris leads our career services area. She does a tremendous job. I'm actively fundraising, for that area. It's one of the critical differentiators. And, if you can take a situation where early on you can help a student really generate and integrate their career plans with their academic study, and it doesn't necessarily mean, it may mean a specific career,
Sure.
right? But it's really, this is where I'm heading in my life,
Right.
and create those, that career pathway
Mm-hmm.
and that clarity of direction that we speak about.
Right.
I think it's what we're in this work to do, and to do that in the context of an integrated Catholic and Vincentian mission.
Right.
You're preparing tremendous young people for the world.
Right. And you mentioned clarity. Anybody that's ever heard you speak knows how important the revitalization of Niagara Falls is. So purpose, right? Let's talk about some of that work that's happening. The university does not sit separate from the city of Niagara Falls. We're deeply engaged there by your vision and your drive to have the university do that. We'll start with the revitalization of some housing projects in the Falls and the university's involvement in that. And just talk on that. We'll cover a few topics here.
Yep.
But
Yeah. So Tom, I often share this story, but St. Vincent was gifted in his lifetime with a massive piece of property in Paris, and his biographers would say he was afraid to accept the gift. This bold guy, because he didn't know what's wrong with this property. Why does somebody want to give it to me?
Right.
And he didn't know if he could handle it.
Right.
But it was that Saint Lazare
Right.
space that allowed the Vincentians to move from a sort of a mom and pop operation to really a global community.
Right.
That has over 1 million people, not just the vowed Vincentians and Daughters and Sisters of Charity, but lay people, Vincent de Paul Society. And so Saint Lazare was home base for that.
Right.
And so, in a certain sense, I think of Niagara and the challenges of Niagara Falls with not simply the majesty of the falls, but the poverty that we all know.
Right.
And often our alums talk to me about that. And so one of the, I've begun to identify our academic programs with our partners in the city, the business community, the government, nonprofit world, educational partners, to be able to pick 4 or 5 programs that we think could really make a tremendous difference. One of those is the housing, right? Housing is the key to development.
Right.
If you can revitalize the housing of
Sure.
Niagara Falls for the current residents, and then invite people in to live in Niagara Falls who want their first home,
Right.
and get a break and can get launched in their life. So we've worked very closely with Mayor Restaino, the new mayor of Niagara Falls, who's doing a tremendous job. And they received a City Rise grant, which establishes $500,000 for housing stabilization, so that we can secure funding sources for first-time home buyers and homeowners to $40,000 to $50,000 per home. What that does is it's a linchpin because it allows people to, in their career, say you're a professor at Niagara, say you're working at the casino, say you're working at Niagara Falls Memorial Medical Hospital, say you're a teacher in Niagara Falls. You can get your home, you pay taxes, you stabilize the neighborhood, and that's how the beginning of the community comes back.
Sure.
So that's one major initiative that we're involved with Patty Roble and the Levesque Institute and our university community.
Yeah, the tax base, create a tax base for the city, and the city needs that revenue as well. So
Right.
that's great. You mentioned when we talked about the pandemic and on campus mental health, but another piece of the work that the university is doing is mental health in the community as a support system. And talk about that and how that works for the university.
Yeah, so one of the major initiatives is the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation based in Manhattan, formerly Fidelis Care, and those assets were transformed into this foundation. And so we've been really working with providers, with our faculty, and with people in the community on early childhood education and mental health training for professionals to receive advanced certifications or micro-credentials.
Right.
And so, actually it's a tremendous initiative because it's really in a pandemic trying to teach people about the skills that you need, the competencies in terms of managing that. And early childhood education, according to the Federal Reserve, is one of the key anti-poverty initiatives. If you can get toddlers and their families on a trajectory of learning and development and sustain that trajectory, you will revitalize your community from the inside out and from the human spirit inside out. So we've been able to have 67 organizations participate in the COVID-19 webinar. We've trained 82 child care and early learning teachers in social-emotional research-based strategies. And those are going to be really the key. Right. So it's the business development, it's the housing, it's this early childhood education, it's touching, and mental health, it's touching all segments of the city and the county.
And you have mentioned St. Vincent a number of times. I don't know if you get a bonus for every time you mention St. Vincent, but certainly the Vincentian's known for service, right? That's the legacy. And Niagara has committed service to the community year in, year out, tougher in a pandemic certainly, but didn't stop, right? And the university still has that commitment to service. And tell me about some of the impact that has happened through service.
Yeah, almost 650 students this year with, close to 8,500 hours of service that have been done, many of that virtual, but heavily engaged. Almost over $500,000 impact, in one term, and serving 200 organizations in the community. So, we'll learn a lot from this going forward about how we can create a hybrid of personally engaged service and leveraging technology to create even greater impact as we go forward.
And you've mentioned business development, but the Trek and the work that's happening there in downtown. Talk a little bit about just kind of that there, because you have, as you said, housing and a tax base and the health of people, and now the business development.
Well, it's a great example, Tom, of where your academic programs can create such leverage and opportunity, right? So the Pat Whalen is doing a great job with the Global Tourism Institute, TREC as we refer to it, the space there. And it's tourism tech incubation. And so when tourism begins to really come back in Niagara Falls, this is space for startup businesses. It's also a community hub, Urban Land Institute, food access, business startup, and community engagement. It's right by near the casino in Niagara Falls. So it's really, if you think about the city, we'll have that space, the housing initiative, and then the work on the north end that we're doing in early childhood education and early childhood development, mental health education as we go forward. So it's really trying to cover all three elements of the city and develop the connective tissue. that really helps us to be able to, with our partners, move the city and the people forward.
That's incredible and fantastic. Father, the news of 2020, of course, is the pandemic, and the other piece of it is social justice with the George Floyd and the movement that happened. And you quickly, at that moment, acted on it on campus and called people together. And talk a little bit about your vision of what has happened at the university with the task force and that work here.
Well, I've always been thinking about this, right? And so back in 2015, we established the Center for Race, Equity, and Mission. Was originally the Race, Equality, and Mission, and Dr. Rolanda Ward was named our executive director. And there have been a number of initiatives that have gone forward. We want the campus to be home for all of our students. Right. Our Caucasian students, our international students, our students of color, our indigenous students, Hispanic, Latino, and Black students. And so, the incidents that you referred to, with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, they touched an incredible nerve in the nation. And so we commissioned a task force led by Dr. Ward. They made a number of recommendations of things that we could do, and things that were underway, how we could strengthen them, things we aren't doing. And so they did that work in 45 days this summer. Wow. And we've been able to, I accepted their recommendations, and we put a working task force together. And so we've been able to, really focus on execution and things that we want to bring forward. And
probably too many to mention here, but what would a couple of the top ones be?
The most significant was really being able to establish a sector for diversity and inclusion with a vice president who reports to me. Mm-hmm. And that would focus on how we deal with equity on the campus, how we deal with instances of discrimination and really strengthening that. And also, how do we do mission-based education and training going forward? So all of us can be incredibly proud of our heritage, our race, our ethnicity, and we can have a foot there, right. And we can also have a foot in our common humanity together.
Right. I know you have not been traveling as much, on the fundraising, and we'll ask again for current youth scholarships. But I know that the other question you get in addition to how is enrollment is how are athletics. So it's probably a pretty quick answer when we look at fall sports and that. But tell me about, we'll start with fall sports and tell me about that and what you see for athletics.
Well, I have to first of all credit our coaches and our student athletes. These are incredibly challenging times for all of us. But if you could imagine, a student athlete at Division I and being so used to being competing and having to just really kind of direct that energy towards training in smaller groups, to your academics, and so we're really committed through our NCAA contacts to be able to provide opportunities for competition for our fall sports in the spring. Right. And we're working really hard to be able to do that. A lot of that is also driven by what's going on in the world and the virus and things. But I feel confident we'll be able to offer a really, really positive experience for our student athletes as we go forward. For men's and women's basketball and hockey, we're committed to having a season and moving forward with that, with all of our testing protocols and all of our plans for keeping be spectatorless sport, at least for the foreseeable future, what you're seeing in pro sports as well.
Are you going to try and sneak in if you can get in?
Well, I'm allowed in Tier 1 as long
right.
as I'm obeying all the, complying with all the,
right.
the masking and the, all the requirements. It's a changing world.
Right.
And so, we're moving forward. We're following all of the guidance and the protocols from the CDC, the NCAA, New York State, Niagara County Department of Health.
Right.
And we've got a really, really good plan, for dealing with that as we go forward. And the coaches and the student athletes have been tremendous. We're doing everything we can within our power to be as responsive as we can and provide that critical experience of part of a student athlete's life, which is so important of intercollegiate competition in athletics.
So you mentioned protocols, just so some spacing, right? And what else? Testing, is that a part of it?
Yeah, it's the testing, the sanitizing, the distancing, no fans,
Right.
really tight protocols on contacts that we want our student athletes to have, and really traveling
Sure.
with distance, and for example, in our conference in basketball, where we've chosen to play the same school the same weekend.
Okay.
So a team comes here, or we go, and it
Sure.
tries to minimize the risk.
Right. Sure. Right. That's interesting. And we've watched it with sports at every level, right? From hockey and NBA and baseball,
Yeah.
football now, and college sports. So, but you see it. Football games just canceled each
Yeah.
weekend and that. But if there's a way. Any other news from athletics that you want to share with us? Successes or?
Yeah, great credit to Simon Gray, our athletic director. The graduation success rate is 93% for student athletes. 9 of our 18 athletic teams had a graduate success rate of 100%. Our top top major continues to be biology. And so they really are not only student athletes, but they're scholar athletes.
Right.
And that's a credit to Simon, to his coaches, and that what we can provide for a Division I athlete is that experience of intercollegiate athletics, engagement with the community, the campus community, the larger community in service, and academic excellence.
And as we shift from athletics now, I've mentioned a few times you haven't been traveling to raise money. But we've talked about current use scholarships, and we mentioned the Purple Eagles are really fun. For somebody who does not know, what does a current use scholarship? What does that mean?
Well, it really, it's a way in which you help students in the here and now.
Okay.
And so we are building the endowment and building endowed scholarships. In this environment, when higher education is so challenged without COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And alums have heard me speak about that in terms of the work that has continued to be done. It gets it gets money into the hands of students and families right away, so they can come to Niagara, they can complete their degree. I mean, last year we had 629 students that were awarded close to $2 million. That makes a tremendous difference. We serve largely, Tom, a middle class and working poor student population.
Right.
Families make incredible sacrifices to send their sons and daughters to Niagara, and so we're trying to really meet them
Right.
with generosity from the university, from our alumni, from all of our fundraising, to be able to have them come to Niagara and have a great experience.
So with nearly $50 million total going in financial aid each year,
Yes.
but this is really almost like a pass-through. We take the money and hand it right off. And usually host the President's Dinner each fall. We talk about that. That money goes to current use scholarships. That's correct, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. So this event takes place at the President's Dinner, and there's a goal this year of current use scholarship to raise $50,000 by the end of the year. We're at $38,000 already, so that's great. But tell me about that goal and setting that up for our students at this point.
Yeah, Tom, I think we recognize, that this is an incredibly challenging time financially for everyone, and so, the President's Dinner has typically netted us between $220,000 and $230,000 that goes right to current use scholarship dollars. So we did a 3-to-1 match with a donor. So
Right.
we're at $38,000 right now on a goal of $50 as we speak, and all that money will go right to help students come to Niagara, but continue at Niagara as we go forward. So it's a great way in which we can take the tools that are available to us online and virtually and connect our alums with our current students and our future students at Niagara.
That's fantastic. Father, this has been a lot of fun. Any closing remarks that you share?
No, just an incredible debt of thanks to our alums who are watching for your love of Niagara, for all that you do. And on behalf of our students and our university community, I thank you for your incredible generosity.
That's great. So again, we're trying to raise $50,000 by the end of the year. $38,000 already raised. If you want to give, you can go right to the website, niagara.edu, There's a give button in the upper right. Click the give button there, and it's a 3-to-1 match. If you have questions about the university and you want to ask those, you can email those to alumni@niagara.edu, and our alumni team will certainly get back to you. Father, it's been a lot of fun. Of course, we will see you again. Good luck with the spring semester. Have a great holiday season.
Thank you, Tom, very much.
It's been great to be with you live on Monteagle Ridge, and we will see you again soon, hopefully on campus. Have a good weekend, everybody.